First contact facade. The Khazri flagship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. High Commander Zora Tell stood on the bridge, her iridescent scales rippling with anticipation as she studied the unremarkable yellow star and its planets. Preliminary scans complete, Commander, announced Science Officer Ven, their neural tendrils pulsing with data streams. Third planet shows signs of primitive industrialization. Radio waves, atmospheric pollution, basic satellite network. Technology level. Pre-FTL, approximately type 0.7 on the Kardashev scale. Zara's secondary eyes blinked in disappointment. The Khazri collective had hoped to find potential allies in their quest to counter the expanding Nexus Empire. Instead, they'd found yet another developing world, barely worth the energy spent reaching it. How primitive? She asked, mandibles clicking softly. Their most advanced computers still use silicon semiconductors. Their space presence is limited to their own satellite belt and a single research station on their moon. They still burn fossil fuels for energy. Ven's tendrils writhed with what passed for amusement among their species. Curious that they've survived this long without destroying themselves, Zara mused. Any signs of the energy signature we detected? Negative, Commander. The burst that caught our attention must have been an anomaly, perhaps a natural phenomenon we don't yet understand. Zara chittered in frustration. The mysterious energy pulse that had drawn them to this backwater system had matched no known technological signature in their vast databases. For a moment, it had seemed to suggest capabilities far beyond anything the Khazri themselves possessed. Take us in closer, she ordered. Standard stealth protocols. Let's observe these primitives before we decide whether to make contact. The flagship glided silently through the system, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to what they assumed were Earth's primitive sensors. They passed Mars, noting with mild interest the ruins of what appeared to be simple research outposts. Everything matched their expectations of a young civilization, taking its first tentative steps into space. Everything, that is, until they reached Earth's moon. Commander, Ven's voice carried an edge of alarm. Energy spike detected. It's. A brilliant beam of coherent light lanced out from the moon's surface, striking the Khazri flagship with surgical precision. Their impenetrable shields collapsed instantly. Impossible. Zora's scales flashed crimson with shock. How did they even detect us? Before anyone could respond, a calm human voice filled their bridge, speaking perfect universal standard. Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted space. Your stealth systems are impressive, but outdated by our standards. Power down and prepare to receive boarding parties. Any hostile action will result in immediate defensive measures. The bridge crew stared at their commander in stunned silence. Zara's mind raced. Everything they knew about Earth suggested a primitive civilization, yet they'd just been effortlessly disabled by weapons technology that shouldn't exist for at least another 1,000 years of development. Scanning the lunar surface, Ven reported, their tendrils trembling. Commander, I'm detecting extensive underground complexes, advanced power signatures, quantum computing arrays. This isn't possible. They're satellites, they're primitive technology. It's all a facade. Another energy signature bloomed on their sensors, and a sleek vessel emerged from the moon's shadow. Its design was unlike anything in their database, somehow both ancient and impossibly advanced. Final warning, the human voice stated. Power down in 10 seconds, or we will be forced to demonstrate capabilities beyond the simple warning shot you just received. As Zara gave the order to comply, she realized their mission had suddenly become far more interesting than anyone could have anticipated. They hadn't found primitive allies to protect from the Nexus Empire. They'd found something far more intriguing, a civilization that had deliberately hidden its true nature from the galaxy. The question was, why? Little did she know, the answer would shake the very foundations of their understanding of galactic history and humanity's place in it. Ancient Archives. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation room of Lunar Base Alpha, watching as the alien vessel was guided into one of the massive underground hangars. Behind her carefully neutral expression, decades of preparation clicked into place. Humanity had known this day would come. They'd just hoped to have more time. "Interesting design," remarked Admiral Marcus Hayes, his dark eyes studying the crystalline ship. "Reminiscent of the precursor artifacts we found in the Kuiper Belt, but far less advanced," Sarah noted, adjusting her neural interface. The quantum computer network embedded throughout the lunar facility fed her constant updates about their visitors. Their technology suggests they developed independently, without access to the ancient archives. The door slid open with a whisper, admitting Captain Rodriguez, her exosuit still humming with residual energy from the warning shot she'd fired. "Our guests are ready for transfer. Thought you'd want to know. They're absolutely terrified of us. Their biological readings are off the charts. Wouldn't you be?" Marcus smiled grimly. "Everything they thought they knew about us just got turned upside down. Their scans showed exactly what we wanted them to see. A young, primitive species taking its first steps into space. Instead, they find this." He gestured at the sprawling underground complex, where quantum-locked machinery older than most civilizations hummed with power. Sarah's neural interface pinged, displaying a message from the Deep Analysis Division. "The preliminary results are in. These Khazari, they're running from something. Their ship's memory banks are filled with tactical data about something called the Nexus Empire." "Another young race throwing its weight around?" Rodriguez asked, removing her helmet. "Presumably." Sarah brought up a holographic display, showing the projected expansion of this new empire. "They've conquered 12 systems in the past solar year. The Khazari are next on their list." Marcus's expression darkened. "The same old story. How many times have we watched this play out? Young civilizations discover faster than light travel, think they're masters of the universe, start building empires, and never stop to wonder why there are so many habitable worlds just waiting to be claimed," Sarah finished. "Or why the ruins they find are all relatively young. None of them ever ask the right questions." A soft chime indicated the alien delegation was approaching. Sarah straightened her simple gray uniform, deliberately understated, like everything else humans showed to the galaxy. The door opened, revealing High Commander Zeratel and her senior staff, flanked by human security officers. The aliens tried to hide their shock at seeing what appeared to be normal humans, not the advanced beings their imaginations had conjured. Sarah could read their confusion in every movement, every flicker of their scaled skin. "Welcome to Lunar Base Alpha," she said warmly. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Chief of Xenorchaeology. I believe we have much to discuss." "You," Zara's translator struggled momentarily. "You've been deceiving the galaxy, hiding your true capabilities. Why?" Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus. After millennia of secrecy, the weight of history hung heavy in the air. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "the better question is why we felt we needed to. Tell me, High Commander, in your studies of galactic history, have you ever wondered why no civilization seems to be more than 50,000 years old?" The alien leader's secondary eyes blinked rapidly. "The Great Gap, the period before which no records exist. Some theorize a catastrophic event. No records except one." Sarah interrupted gently. She pressed her palm against a seemingly ordinary wall. Ancient machinery stirred to life, and the room transformed around them. Suddenly, they stood among the stars, surrounded by a three-dimensional map of the galaxy as it had appeared 5 million years ago. "Welcome," Sarah said, watching their visitors' expressions shift from confusion to awe, "to the true history of Earth, the history we've kept hidden since before your ancestors left their oceans." The aliens stared in stunned silence as the holographic display showed Earth as it had once been, a thriving hub of activity, with massive structures orbiting the planet and ships unlike anything the Khazari had ever seen moving between the stars. But then, their science officer, struggled to process what they were seeing. This would mean. Yes, Marcus confirmed. Humanity isn't a young species taking its first steps into space. We are what remains of the galaxy's first spacefaring civilization. And now that you're here, you need to understand why we've hidden this truth for so long. As if on cue, a red warning light pulsed through the ancient facility. Captain Rodriguez's neural interface flashed urgent data across her vision. "Sir," she said tensely, "we're detecting multiple FTL signatures approaching the system. Energy patterns match the Nexus Empire vessels in the Kazri database." Sarah's expression hardened. "It seems," she said, turning to their stunned visitors, "that history is about to repeat itself. The question is, are you ready to learn why Earth has remained hidden for all these millennia?" The Guardian Protocol. Alarms echoed through Lunar Base Alpha as holographic displays tracked the approaching Nexus fleet. High Commander Zora watched in fascination as the seemingly primitive human facility transformed, ancient systems awakening beneath layers of carefully crafted deception. 53 warships, Captain Rodriguez reported, her neural interface streaming data directly to her consciousness. "Standard conquest formation. They're following your warp signature," Commander telephoned. "We didn't mean to lead them here." Zara's scales rippled with distress. "We were seeking allies against their expansion. Not." "It doesn't matter," Sarah interrupted, her hands dancing through holographic controls that seemed to phase between ancient and modern interfaces. "This was always inevitable. The galaxy's young races have to learn the truth eventually." Admiral Hayes's voice cut through the chaos with practiced authority. "Initiate Guardian Protocol. Authorization Hayes Omega-7." The entire lunar surface seemed to shudder. Hidden panels slid away, revealing weapons arrays that had slumbered for millennia. But these weren't the precise, elegant weapons that had disabled the Kazri ship. These were something else entirely. 5 million years ago, Sarah explained as she worked, humanity reached the stars. We were the first, or at least the first to survive our own advancement. We spread across the galaxy, built wonders, unlocked secrets of the universe that your people are still centuries from discovering. But something went wrong. Then, the Kazri science officer ventured. Their neural tendrils pulsed with rapid calculations as they processed the impossible data streams surrounding them. "Nothing went wrong," Marcus corrected, his dark eyes reflecting holographic star maps. "We succeeded, too well. We saw the pattern that every advanced civilization would follow. The drive to expand, to conquer, to impose their vision of order on the galaxy. It's written into the DNA of every species that achieves faster than light travel." The approaching Nexus fleet was now visible on the main display, their ships black against the star field, bristling with weapons designed to subdue primitive worlds. "So we made a choice," Sarah continued. "Instead of becoming the empire everyone expected, we became guardians. We seeded habitable worlds, guided evolution, prepared the galaxy for the emergence of new intelligent species. Then we withdrew, hiding our true nature, watching, waiting." The ruins. Zara's secondary eyes widened in realization. "All those ancient sites we've discovered. Test sites," Rodriguez confirmed. "Places where we monitored developing civilizations, helped them survive their own advancement. The great gap in your histories. That's when we activated the protocol, erased our obvious presence from the galaxy, leaving just enough evidence of ancient civilizations to inspire wonder and caution." Another alarm blared. The Nexus fleet had entered the outer solar system. Their communications array crackled with an imperious demand for surrender. "But why?" Ven asked, neural tendrils writhing in confusion. "With your technology, you could have ruled the galaxy, protected it directly." "Because that's exactly what we wanted to avoid," Sarah said softly. "Direct rule, no matter how benevolent, stifles growth. Every species needs to find its own path. We provide guidance, not governance." Admiral Hayes stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. What you're about to witness is why we maintain the facade of primitiveness. Watch carefully, High Commander. Your people aren't the first to discover our secret, but few have seen what happens when the Guardian Protocol is fully activated. The lunar surface transformed. What had appeared to be simple craters and ancient lava flows shifted, revealing vast arrays of technology that defied comprehension. The quantum computers that had seemed impressive moments before were revealed to be mere interfaces for something far more profound. We don't just build advanced technology, Sarah explained, her fingers tracing patterns in the air that left glowing trails of possibility. We reshape reality itself. The laws of physics aren't as immutable as young races believe. They're more like guidelines for those who know how to ask politely. The Nexus fleet approached Mars, their sensors no doubt detecting the same primitive ruins that had fooled the Khazri. They had no way of knowing they were about to encounter something that had protected the galaxy since before their ancestors had mastered fire. Now, Marcus said grimly, you'll understand why humanity chose to hide, and why the truly dangerous knowledge isn't about building better weapons or faster ships. It's about understanding when not to use the power you possess. The Guardian Protocol reached full activation, and the true face of Earth's ancient legacy prepared to reveal itself to yet another young race that had reached too far, too fast. Legacy of the Cedars. The Nexus fleet spread across Mars' orbit in an attack formation that would have intimidated any normal civilization. Their black ships, designed to inspire terror in younger races, hung against the stars like a promise of doom. On the command deck of Lunar Base Alpha, High Commander Zora watched as humanity prepared to shatter that promise. Final warning received from the Nexus flagship, Rodriguez reported. They're demanding our immediate surrender and the handover of all Khazri refugees. Admiral Hayes smiled slightly. Dr. Chen, would you do the honors? Sarah nodded, her neural interface glowing with ancient protocols. Guardian Defense Network activating. Mars Section 1. Initiating wake-up sequence. The surface of Mars rippled like disturbed water. What had appeared to be simple dust and rock transformed, revealing vast complexes of technology that had waited patiently for millions of years. The primitive research outposts the Khazri had noted earlier shimmered and changed, their true nature emerging from carefully maintained camouflage. Impossible, Ven whispered, their neural tendrils coiling in shock. The energy readings, they're beyond anything in our theoretical models. Watch carefully, Sarah said softly. This is why we hide. This is why we guide instead of rule. The Mars defense grid activated fully. Space itself seemed to bend around the red planet as ancient systems came online. The Nexus fleet, for all their advanced technology, suddenly found their weapons refusing to fire, their engines responding erratically, their carefully planned attack dissolving into chaos. We don't just build machines, Sarah explained as the display showed Nexus ships trying desperately to retreat. We learned to write new rules into the fabric of reality. Local space around Mars is currently operating under different physical laws than what your species considers normal. The ultimate defense, Marcus added. Not better shields or weapons, but the ability to simply say no to hostile actions within our sphere of influence. Zara watched in awe as the mighty Nexus fleet was systematically disabled without a single shot being fired. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were now drifting helplessly, their technology rendered useless by forces they couldn't begin to comprehend. But this power, she said, scales shifting with concern. Why not use it to protect other worlds? To stop empires like the Nexus before they can harm anyone? Because that would make us exactly what we've spent millions of years trying to prevent. Sarah answered. The moment we start actively enforcing our will on the galaxy, we become the very empire we rejected being. A new hologram appeared, showing Earth as it had been 5 million years ago. Massive orbital rings encircled the planet, ships of impossible design moving between stars as easily as breathing. We had our time of glory, Marcus said, watching the ancient scenes play out. We built wonders that would make your greatest achievements seem like child's toys, And we learned the hardest lesson any species can learn, that true wisdom isn't about what you can do, but what you choose not to do. The cedars, Ven suddenly exclaimed, neural tendrils pulsing with revelation. The myths every spacefaring race discovers, about ancient beings who prepared worlds for life. That was you. Sarah nodded. We didn't just prepare worlds. We designed entire ecosystems, guided evolution, created conditions for intelligence to emerge naturally. Every spacefaring race owes their existence, in some way, to our work. Including the Nexus Empire, Rodriguez added with irony, watching as the once mighty fleet drifted powerlessly in Mars orbit. So what happens now? Zara asked, watching her people's greatest threat rendered harmless by technology so advanced it bordered on magic. Admiral Hayes stepped forward, his expression serious. Now, High Commander, you and your people face a choice. You've seen what we can do. You understand why we hide. The question is, are you ready to help us maintain the balance we've spent millions of years perfecting? The Khazri delegation looked at each other, their scales shifting through patterns of thought and emotion. They had come seeking allies against the Nexus Empire. Instead, they had found the architects of galactic civilization itself. Before Zara could respond, new alarms blared through the facility. Sarah's expression changed from calm to concern as she read the incoming data. "Sir," she said to Hayes, "we're detecting temporal anomalies in the outer system. Something's coming through. Something old." "How old?" Marcus demanded. Sarah's face paled slightly. "From the signatures, I'd say about 5 million years." The ancient facility hummed with power as humanity prepared to face something they hadn't encountered in eons, echoes of their own past coming back to haunt them. Inheritors of the stars, the temporal anomaly bloomed in the outer solar system, a swirling vortex of spacetime that shouldn't exist. On Lunar Base Alpha's command deck, ancient warning systems screamed to life, recognizing patterns they hadn't detected in millions of years. "Full temporal signature confirmed," Sarah announced, her voice tight. "It's one of ours, a human vessel from the First Age." Through the quantum-enhanced displays, they watched as a massive ship emerged from the vortex. Unlike the elegant efficiency of modern human technology, this vessel was a monument to raw power. It gleamed with an inner light that hurt to look at, its hull decorated with symbols that made the Khazri's translators shut down in protest. "The archival," Admiral Hayes breathed. "We thought it was lost with the others when we initiated the protocol." "Others?" Zara asked, her scales rippling with confusion. "Not all of humanity agreed with our decision to become guardians," Sarah explained, her fingers dancing through emergency protocols. "Some wanted to continue expanding, to rule openly. They took their ships and vanished into time, rather than accept our choice. The ancient human vessel dwarfed the disabled Nexus fleet, its presence alone causing ripples in reality. When it broadcast, the message came in a language that made the Khazri's inner ears bleed until their translators adjusted. "Children of the retreat," a voice boomed, layered with harmonics that suggested multiple dimensions of speech. "We have watched your experiment long enough. Your guardian protocol has failed. Look at these primitive species, still fighting, still conquering. It is time to resume our rightful place." "Temporal defense grid activated," Rodriguez reported. "But sir, their technology, it's evolved over millions of years in their own timeline. Our current systems may not be enough." Admiral Hayes straightened, his expression hardening. "They're not supposed to be. Dr. Chen, initiate final protocol." Sarah's eyes widened. "Sir, we've never actually tested it." "Because it was designed for exactly this moment," Hayes replied. He turned to the Khazri delegation. "High Commander, you wanted to know why we hide our true nature. Watch carefully. This is the legacy we've been protecting you from." The lunar facility transformed one final time. Hidden quantum arrays activated, connecting to similar installations throughout the solar system. What had seemed like impressive but comprehensible technology proved to be merely the surface of humanity's true capabilities. We seeded the galaxy, Sarah explained as she worked, not just with life, but with purpose. Every intelligent species that evolved did so within parameters we designed, leading to specific paths of development. Your civilizations aren't random. They're part of a grand experiment in guided evolution. But why? Venn asked, neural tendrils writhing with the implications. Because, Marcus answered, we needed inheritors, species that could one day take our place, but do it right this time. The final protocol isn't a weapon, it's a transfer of power. The ancient vessel launched its first attack, reality-warping weapons that should have torn the solar system apart. Instead, they encountered something unexpected. The combined potential of every species humanity had secretly guided for millions of years. Your drives for conquest, your technological development, even your biological adaptations, Sarah explained as she initiated the final sequence, all designed to create species that could wield power without being corrupted by it. Today, we find out if we succeeded. Quantum connections stretched across the galaxy, linking every world humanity had seeded. The combined potential of thousands of species, each developed along carefully planned paths, suddenly activated. The Khazari felt it first, a sudden expansion of consciousness, access to understanding that had always been locked away in their genetic code. The ancient human vessel faltered as it encountered something its creators hadn't predicted, an entire galaxy of species engineered to surpass their makers. This was always the endgame, Hayes said softly, not to rule forever, but to create worthy successors, species that could learn from our mistakes and do better. The final protocol reached completion. Across the galaxy, every spacefaring race simultaneously gained access to knowledge and capabilities that had been hidden in their very DNA, waiting for this moment. Not just technology, but understanding. The wisdom humanity had gained over millions of years, transferred to species specifically engineered to use it wisely. As the ancient vessel's weapons failed against the combined potential of humanity's inheritors, High Commander Zura finally understood. They hadn't been hiding out of fear or secrecy, but out of hope that their greatest creation, a galaxy of species designed to transcend the mistakes of their makers, would finally be ready to take their place. The time of human guardianship was ending. The age of their children was about to begin. Well, Sarah said, smiling as she watched the Khazari and countless other species across the galaxy awaken to their true potential. Shall we show our wayward ancestors what 5 million years of careful planning looks like? The answer came not just from the lunar facility, but from every world humanity had seeded, every species they had guided, a resounding cascade of consciousness ready to prove worthy of their maker's trust. The experiment was complete. The students had become the masters, and somewhere in the quantum consciousness that now linked the galaxy's younger species, the original human guardians watched with pride as their children took their first steps into a future even they hadn't dared to imagine.